What's up, people? I'm just making a quick overall, not overall, like a quick overview of this Ferrum Forge designed mass drop knife, the gent, or gent's knife, the gent, whatever the hell it's called. But I've only had it for 2 days, so I can't really say it's a review or anything like that. And it is what it is. So anyway, on with it. Real quick, the specs. These specs are right off of mass drop, so I don't know how accurate they are. I haven't busted out a tape measure, but I assume they're pretty accurate. You got an overall length of 6.6 inches, 3 inches on the blade length, 3.6 inches closed. Blade stock is 130 thou thick and a weight of 2.4 ounces. You got black G10 overlays on a titanium frame. Some people call this a frame lock, some people will call it a liner lock. Basically, I guess it's a frame lock with overlays, whatever. Same thing, really. But overall, I have to say I really like this knife. The materials it's an $80 knife. I think they were like $79 or something on mass drop. I paid a little bit more than that, not much, on the secondary market just because I didn't get in on the drop and I wanted to try it out. But for an $80 knife, I think it's a pretty good deal, especially with the materials, like I said. So fit and finish wise, the blade, you got this kind of like real high polished satin. It's pretty consistent. There's a little bit of inconsistency in it on an $80 knife. I'm not going to bitch about that. It is kind of like a magnet for like fingerprints and whatnot, but no big deals there. The G10 is done all nicely. I could have one very tiny nitpick on this corner of the knife over here. It's a little sharp, and the only time I ever feel it is like when I'm playing with a knife or a certain way I get in my hand, and not all the time, but I can feel it every once in a while. Really not a big ding or anything like that. You could take it off and sand it for 2 seconds and you wouldn't feel it at all. But that's literally, for material-wise, the only real fit and finish that I can knock them on. Like I said, the G10, the titanium's done nice, chamfered nicely. The pocket clip is, not a very great looking pocket clip. It looks like the same one that was on the Pretium. It's very functional, deep carry pocket clip. Super functional. You can't feel it in use. No hot spots or anything like that. But it's really just not that great looking of a pocket clip, in my opinion, at least. So that is what it is. Lockup on this knife, it's secure. There's no play in any direction. Centering is pretty damn spot on. Might be hard to pick up in the camera. Might be a tad off, but honestly, it's pretty damn close to perfect. Action is good. I don't know if the bearings are ceramic. It says it has a ceramic detent ball. I'm not sure about the bearings. They may be or may be steel, but either way, the action on it's good. It's smooth. It's not a fall dropper, but it is a light knife. Just a little shake and it'll close. So, but flipping action and detent are both very good. There's no jimping on the flipper tab or anything like that, but I haven't noticed it be a problem whatsoever. It is the gent. It's supposed to be a gentleman's folder, so it is what it is. Like I said, there's no jimping. There is a swedge that runs, probably about a little over 3/4 the length of the blade. Done nicely. So overall, fit and finish. There is, and another thing I like, there's not a ton of writing on it. The logo, the blade steel, and the number is all on one side, and it's very small and kind of like, honestly, with that polish, sometimes it's really even hard to notice it. So very sterile of a knife. Ergonomically speaking, I like it. I can get a full hand grip on just holding the back of the knife, but honestly, I could use it like this, but it just doesn't feel like great in the hand. It's not like it's uncomfortable, but it's a little cramped, and it doesn't, like I said, it's not like my choice when I would be cutting with this knife. I've cut up like 2 boxes with that knife, and that's it. So I'm saying this isn't really a review, but choked up in the choil, it feels really good in hand. Here's one knock of the knife, and it's not a huge knock, but this finger choil could be a little bit bigger for my hands, and my hands are medium to large hands, and it's more length. I don't have like big, thick, mechanics hands or some shit like that, big, bear paws. So. But even if you look at that there, if I pull my finger away, like you can tell when I choke up in there, a portion of my finger goes over on the blade. Now when I've cut the boxes, you know, your pressure's coming that way, so it's not like it's cutting me or anything like that. But you know, if you move a little bit, whatever, you could possibly, I just poked myself in the finger, but could possibly be an issue. I will probably extend this a little bit myself, just to you know, give me a little bit more clearance for my finger. So that's one hit with the knife. The other hit would be this little tiny sharp edge that isn't even really that bad or sharp or anything like that, and it's unnoticeable really until, like I said, if I'm playing with the knife, sometimes when I get it in, like it just hits the side of my hand, I can feel it, and like I said, that's not a big deal. So besides that, the finger choil is probably the most complaint. The lockup is, you know, not bad for frame lock, you know, kind of where you want it to be. This is a Chinese made knife. You know, the angle that the lock's cut out on doesn't seem to be too extreme, which if it is, you can run into problems. I always kind of wary about Chinese made just frame locks. Just because most of the time they're using steel lock bar inserts, and I feel like a steel lock bar insert, you know, definitely is a little bit more forgiving on lockup on a frame lock knife. I mean, 100%. You can see sometimes with a steel lock bar, you'll see like a wonky cutout in there, but the knife still locks up solid, and I've never had any issues with it. Whereas if it's got a goofy, crazy angle, like on this Boker Escobar or whatever the hell this knife's called, but this knife, as you can see, the angle's pretty extreme, and it has lock rock. And I haven't even like used this knife a ton. I've cut up some boxes and shit with it. Beyond that, that's pretty much it. The lockup, basically after cutting like one or two things, I started getting lock rock on this knife. So that's what kind of makes me worry about it. But like I said, this knife, I cut up a couple boxes. It doesn't seem like the angle's that extreme on it, so it should be good. Only, you know, time will tell with that, and we'll have to see later on if it becomes an issue, but it doesn't seem like it will. Other than that, just some little comparisons, kind of knives in the same class, lightweight. There's the Benchmade Bug Out, which is bigger both in blade length, handle length, and overall length. You have the Spyderco Native. This is the cutlery shop. I'll kind of move that up off the camera here. Sorry about that, but try to get them lined up. These knives are really comparable size-wise, overall length at least. You get more cutting edge with the gent's knife, and then here's a Sage 5, and these knives take away this one. All kind of remind me like the same thing. Like all these knives really are just knives that I really prefer to use with the finger choil, and it's just way more comfortable in the finger choil position. So, but as I will say, these two are pretty much the closest. You do get more cutting edge length with the mass drop, but if you look at the finger choils here, you line them up there, you can see that the Natives is a good bit bigger, and honestly it just feels a little bit more secure in the hand than it does on there. That's why I said I may extend that finger choil a little bit, because this knife to me, like I said, it's kind of the same thing as this. Like I can get a full grip on here, and it just, both knives taper at the end, and it doesn't feel like the most secure grip when you're cutting like that. I definitely always use this knife in the choil. It's kind of what this will be, so like I said, I will probably extend that choil. But overall, price range, materials you get, blade steel, I think the knife's a winner, especially at the price point it came out at. I don't mind extending this finger choil myself. It's just a little bit of time spent on the Dremel. The blade stock isn't crazy thick. I'll do a comparison with the, like I said, it's about 130 thou. So pretty comparable to the Native. And it's a little harder to see because there is a swedge on the gent's knife. But thickness behind the edge, it's not wildly thin or it's not wildly thick behind the edge. It's, you know, as far as I can tell from cutting up with a couple boxes, it slices well, so I don't think I have any problems with that. But kind of compare it here on the fly with the Benchmade. Yeah, it's pretty thin behind the edge. I mean, so it is a decent cutter from the little bit of cutting I've done. And overall, I really like the knife. So if you're thinking about one in the secondary market, you know, at 80 bucks, these things are a steal. I've seen some going for 65. a couple on Blade Forums, and then they went. The next guy was charging $100. Could you pay $100 for this knife and still feel it's worth it? I think you could. You know, honestly, it's decent materials. As long as you don't mind modding that, if that's an issue for you, or if you have really small fingers. And like I said, I've cut with this knife already using the finger choil, cut the boxes up, cross cut, did two pieces lined up together. And, you know, it's not like it didn't cut into my finger or anything like that, because your force is going away from where your finger's sitting. But at the same time, I feel a little bit more secure with a little bit longer finger choil. So there's my pretty much 5-minute rant on the finger choil. The pocket clip, like I said, isn't great looking, very functional. This knife really has a tiny footprint in your pocket, and overall, I really like it. So that's about that, and I'm out.